Skipping rainbows on a blue sky day. Brother, your Coca-Cola flares are looking fine. That beauty rocket shipping our backyard. We can make it to the moon every single time. Hey, welcome. It's Thursday tip time, and this tip suggestion came from Steve Lawson, who's an amazing bassist, a buddy of mine, and a great solo improviser. He asked me to create a video about tips for singing while playing the bass, doing the two together. Now, this subject is going to require probably a little more than 5 minutes to kind of properly explore. But I'm going to start this time with arguably the toughest aspect of bass playing singing, which is combining two different rhythms of vocal line and bass line against the set tempo. Now, I'm not sure if you realize it, but bass is right up there with being one of the hardest instruments to combine with singing. The reason for this is that most instruments allow you to put a chord pattern on autopilot while you sing, only requiring you to check in sort of occasionally as you change chords. Bass playing, however simple it might appear, is a process of constructing a drawn-out melody across the song. And if you're singing as well, it means you're creating a different melody simultaneously. The bass also has pretty serious timekeeper duties, particularly in genres where there's no drummer or no percussionist, or genres where the drummer takes an ambient sort of sound color role and then it's left to the bass to really hold the tempo down. So that's a lot of things for your brain to manage at the one time. To be separately present and in control of each of those melodies, the bass line and the vocal line, is pretty much impossible for the average human brain. I mean, look up all the science debunking the multitasking myth. Anyone doing two cognitively demanding things at once is doing both things worse than they would be if they tackled them separately. That's just true. This is because your brain has to swap back and forth between each task, wasting energy and valuable cognitive resources, finding its place every time it jumps. So to achieve this in a musical performance, you need to get your brain on board by integrating the two tasks, so your brain doesn't lose its bearings jumping back and forth. In other words, approach it like a drummer. I mean, all four limbs moving independently, but one body, one pulse, one beat. So, when starting out playing bass and singing simultaneously, first of all, it's important to have the melody, the lyrics, and a basic version of the bass line memorized. This is even more important if the two melodic lines vary rhythmically. Secondly, you need a metronome for this exercise. You don't escape the lie detector on this one. If you don't have a metronome at home, most smartphones have compatible metronome apps. Now, you need to work on each line in isolation at first and figure out where each rhythm connects with the downbeat. Let's take a deceptively tricky one that you guys will all know, which is the Creedence song Down on the Corner. Early in the evening, just around supper time. So start out slower at first. And sometimes if there's syncopation in the line, I find it useful to add like an extra little grace note that lands on the beat, just so I can really orientate how the line fits in with the beat. So to use the same example, early in the evening, just about supper time, over by the courthouse, they're starting to unwind. So it sounds awkward, but really helps me see how the line connects. Moving your body in sync helps too. I mean, some people are feet tappers. I'm not much of a feet tapper. I've always been more of a body sway kind of person. It also has the bonus of adding a little extra arm weight while you're playing, so better tone, which is kind of handy as well. Once you can play each line accurately and in time with the metronome at various tempos, including the finish tempo, it's time to try to put them all together. I mean, there's no shortcuts. It's a tightrope and you're going to fall off. Just stop, slow the tempo if you need to, and you might need to pull apart like individual sections of the song, or maybe even like individual phrases that you're finding tricky. And once again, it's the process of taking it apart, not only the sections of the songs, but just taking the bass line and the vocal line apart and then trying to put them together again. So this process of working on the lines in isolation while connecting your body to the pulse is a signal to your brain to connect the two. And then after giving it a solid block of time, watch for the signs you're getting tired and losing focus. Time to pack it in for the day, even if you've not succeeded in putting them together. The magic happens in the next step. And this is kind of the easiest and in some ways the most fun part of it, which is just get to sleep at night in a reasonable amount of time so that you get a really good rest, because that's where the brain does its work. The brain's constantly responding to our daily decisions to more effectively wire the brain to be ready to respond the next time. I'm so in love with neuroplasticity. It means there's hope for all of us. The next step is vital. You have to practice it again the next day. Your brain prioritizes the creation of neural pathways for any skill that you're constantly attempting to recall after doing something else for a while. And then suddenly it's just going to happen. The two will eventually come together and feel like one act. It might take a day or two, might take a week. I mean, the trickiest combination I ever had to put together was a co-write. Now, both lines were really simple. I mean, deceptively simple. Let me see if I can demonstrate. So the melody line went, time is like a river, rapid in a straight line. Really easy. But it was where the bass line fell on the beat that made it really super tricky. Let me see if I still can get it. Time is like a river, rapid in a straight line. That took me a week. But don't despair. Over time, you'll build up a vocabulary of rhythmic fragments that will stick. And even when the notes are different, you won't need to do the same amount of work to integrate them every time. You'll also eventually be able to shift the pocket of either line. For example, holding your vocal phrases back a little while keeping the bass pulse really solid, or improvising on the melody a little. Remember, if you're finding it tough, it's going to take time. I remember back when I learnt to drive a manual transmission car, I had this massive panic attack in the middle of Sydney City when I was balancing a Gregory's map on the way to a gig. And I had to do a hill start right in the middle of peak hour traffic. I mean, it's going to be a little like that when you first take your voice-based song into public for the first time. But if you persevere, you'll be zooming off and up those hills while chatting to your mum on hands-free. See you later. Hey, sister, go, sister, soul, sister, go, sister. Hey, sister, go, sister, soul, sister, go.